Stand and cheer for the Panthers. Stand and cheer for the team. The pride of both Carolinas and city of the Queen. Carolina! Stand and cheer for the Panthers. In our grand old name. Nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina for a Panther football game.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Panthers Brawl, a part of the Brawl Network. This network that's growing, covering the NFL, some NBA. It's kind of just exploding, and we're so happy to be a part of it. We are joined, or I am joined. I'm Jeff, by the way. Everybody knows me. I was sick last week. No, I did not have the coronavirus, just a cold. But now we got Tyler here with us. We got Shontis with us, and you may be asking where Jack is. Well, it's spring break, and he is enjoying himself. Hopefully not too much, and that's coming from his dad, of course. But that's another story. Anyway, hope you guys are well. Tyler, how you doing, bud?
Doing great. We missed you last week, Jeff, and we're excited to have you back. And it's just going to be another great episode. It's episode 7 already. Can't believe it.
It's hard to believe. Shontis, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just been enjoying spring break, been trying to relax a little bit, man. Missed you last week. Glad to have you back, but hopefully try to get everybody back on the show next weekend.
We'll get everybody back next week, and we'll get it rolling. So let's talk about something real quick, and it's not really football related, but it is a huge sports story. Come to find out, the NCAA tournament, both the men's and women's, have decided they are not going to play in front of crowds. So the fans won't be there. It's just going to be the teams, coaches, essential personnel, and I guess some media. For me, I don't know that in 52 years I've ever seen something like that. And I'm just curious as to how that's going to affect the tournament, the atmosphere, people watching it. And I just wanted to throw it out there for you guys. And actually, Shontis, I'll start with you, man. What are your thoughts, and how big of a story is it?
I mean, it's major. It's major because you start to see all the different leagues now starting to take a part in coronavirus prevention. You see the NBA taking steps towards it. You see, I think the Nets and the Warriors they're supposed to play the first game with no fans in the arena. So you're starting to see this becoming more and more of a thing. And I mean, even for me, being at USC, we have an extended spring break now because of it. So it's starting to become a real thing. It's gonna definitely affect the play on the court, which you hate to see that factor of the game taken out because fans and crowd noise play such a big factor in these types of games, especially in college.
Yep. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, the atmosphere of the crowd is just huge for some of especially the smaller teams, because every year in the tournament we see some team make a big push, and a lot of that is because of the crowd. The crowd, they're always rooting for the underdogs and they feed off of them when, in that atmosphere. But now without that, I've seen all over Twitter just kind of people making fun of it, how it's going to be like a rec league game and on TV. And then also for the NCAA, that's a huge moneymaker, bringing these people to these games and everything. They're still going to make a lot on the tournament, but just not having people there, it really affects the ratings and the money. And overall, it's not what you want to see, but I think it's something that had to be done just for safety.
Agreed. And for me, one of the things I love about March Madness is really the end, when they have one shining moment as they wrap it all up. And the first 20 seconds of that song is normally the crowds and the band.
Yeah.
And, who you really feel bad for, too, are some of these seniors in terms of the students who now maybe don't get a chance to see these kids, see their teammates play, their student, play, the bands. If you're in the pep band and you're a senior and now you don't get to go, but I think they made the right move. And as Shanti said, the NBA, Major League Soccer, I think we're going to see it more and more. But overall, I think it's a decision they had to make, and they probably made the right one. So it'll be interesting, and we'll see what happens. On to football. Wanted to start tonight with a story. Chris Smith. Let's tell you a little bit about Chris Smith. Crazy story, both tragic and kind of it's a success story also. He was a fifth-round draft pick, Jags, back in 2014. He's played with the Jags, the Bengals, the Browns. He lost his girlfriend in a tragic auto accident back in September, has a young daughter. But now what's happened? He has been signed by the Carolina Panthers to play this upcoming season, a one-year deal. He's actually from Salisbury, North Carolina. So a great story. And I think what I love about it is He's been around. He's had some success, but I just feel like this right here is that lift he just needed in life. And I think you're going to see it on the football field. Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, with Chris going through so much with, his whole family situation and just overcoming it after, almost not, with all that going on, it's hard to continue your playing career, but he's pushed through it and overcame it, and he's ready to keep playing again after, being with the Jags, Bengals, and Browns. So he's coming back this year, and I think coming home to, North Carolina, there's nothing better than that. I mean, you see guys all the time and just being more comfortable in where they came from. So I think that could be huge for him. And still only 28 years old as a defensive end, and he could be some big help for us and maybe get him involved with some special teams. But I think he's a great early signing.
For me, I think with him, I mean, obviously this is a big moment for him to be able to come back home after having such a tragic accident happen just a year ago. As far as what the impact he can have on our team, he's gonna be one of those guys that you think about. Like I think about guys we've had in the past. Like I think about a Kyle Love, a rotational player that has had a huge impact for us in like at times during big moments. So you think about those types of guys and think about how defensive lines are made up. They're made up with rotational guys that aren't necessarily stars, but can come in and give you good service for in key moments in games where you may not think it'll happen. So I mean, I think that'll be what his role will be for us moving forward.
And what I love about it too is, everybody's like, it's just a 1-year deal. But when somebody signs that 1-year deal, it is all or nothing.
Yeah.
It's go hard or go home. And to have the opportunity, like, you guys said, to play in front of probably hometown crowd, to be back home and have that 1 year, it could turn out to be just a really great story. And of course, he'll probably play with a heavy heart in memory of his girlfriend. And, he has that young daughter to take care of. So, of course, we wish him the best, and we hope it's a great story. And, I think he will make that impact. It'll be interesting. I think it'll go along the rotational type deal, as you said, Shontis, and I think that's the way to look at. So as we get through this weekend and we hit Monday will start the crazy week that is free agency, the legal tampering. Actually, they kept pushing back the tag deadlines. It was going to be Friday and then Saturday. Now they've moved it to Monday at noon. So the tag deadline is Monday at noon. At 12 o'clock and 1 second, legal tampering starts. So we'll throw two questions at you, and we can hit one at a time. The first is this. The Panthers have never really been known to really have a big splash in free agency. So my question to you guys is this. If they were to make that big splash, who is that one person that's maybe out there or that one position you'd like to see the Panthers jump on as we hit Monday and go through the next week? And Shontis, throw to you first.
Okay, well, for me, and I talked about it a little bit on Money in the Bank, the episode we just released earlier. I think they go after I think a wide receiver, an ex-wide receiver will be what they'd be looking for. And I think Robbie Anderson, because of his ties to Matt Rule at his days at Temple, may be a guy that we may look at as far as to completely open up this offense and to really get the most out of DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel and what they can be, which I think are better suited to play in the slot than on the outside. I think he can go get an ex-wide receiver and let the offense flourish.
What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Money in the Bank episode this week that Shontis did. If you haven't watched it already, definitely go check it out. Probably one of my favorite ones so far. I mean, he looked at the Panthers receiving group and what's going to happen in the future there. But for me, the person I think could make a big splash in Carolina. You guys know last week we kind of had a bit of a depressing episode as Shontis, Jack, and I were a little bit upset of some of the moves they made after that Trey Turner move. But I wouldn't, and it looks like right now they're going with Cam, but I wouldn't rule out them signing Teddy Bridgewater in free agency. We kind of talked about him here and there in the Money in the Bank, especially with Shontis, but he's becoming a free agent this year after being behind Drew Brees for so many years, and before that, overcoming his knee injury. But Teddy seems like a guy that if something happens with Cam, if we decide to trade him, and it doesn't look like we're going to try to draft a quarterback this year, at least right now. So I feel like Teddy could be a guy they bring in to kind of have a bridge into the next year when we, maybe draft a quarterback if we were to get rid of Cam. So I wouldn't rule that out, and obviously that would just be a huge signing, a new quarterback in town. But I guess we'll just have to see.
I agree with both of you guys. I think when I think about Teddy Bridgewater, I don't think they're going to make a decision on Cam here in the next, 48,
Right.
72 hours or something like that. It'd be interesting you go get Teddy, and then, is that pushing Cam? Who knows? Who knows what would happen there? And I do agree, wide receiver, that one veteran wide receiver, we've got some young ones. I think to bring that veteran would be great. But here's the deal. I think that if Cam stays, and that is their deal, we're going to let Cam go this year, you got to keep him healthy. Granted, there's a lot of offensive linemen in this draft, but I think you go after somebody, and depending on the money situation, one of the best out there is going to be Jack Conklin from the Titans. He's up for grabs. We think. We'll find out a lot more, like I said, over the next couple of days because they can't tag Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry. So Jack Conklin's out there. Somebody's going to get a strong offensive lineman. He's young and could really solidify that line. So if I had to think about that, I'm going to go offensive line. And go Jack Conklin. I think that would be a good route to go.
Okay, and what you saying Jack Conklin could possibly be an option for Carolina? What type of money do you think he'll be asking for in free agency? Would it be elite level tackle offensive lineman money?
I think it would. I mean, they spent a first round pick on him, and he's been now. Granted, though, he did have he's had a couple injuries here and there, but I think with what's out there. Now, the interesting part, though, Sean, is the fact that, I'd say he's going to be elite money, but also you've got a great set of offensive linemen in the draft.
This is true.
So you can look at that rookie, look at the rookie cap and stuff like that, and what you'd pay a rookie as to what you pay that veteran. But in a nutshell, I think you'd have to pay him some elite money to get him. Along those lines, I love Twitter and I love all the social media and stuff as we get to this week because everything seems to be out there. So let me ask you this. If there was one kind of signing that would blow the minds of everybody, and you had to pick one, and it doesn't need necessarily be the Panthers, but that one person who might sign somewhere else, what would it be? And who do you think, what team would they be going to? What do you think, Tyler?
I'm going to go, pretty surprising with this one, but recently the Cowboys offered Dak Prescott a $105 million contract over I don't know how many years, but huge money, and he hasn't obviously signed it yet and is set to become a free agent. But if he doesn't get tagged, which the chances they keep him around are very likely because they can tag him or hopefully extend him before Monday, but the off chance that they don't get something done, with Dallas, they got a lot of guys to re-sign, and of course Dak's their highest priority. But if he hits the market, that could be a huge, obviously, a quarterback of his caliber coming to a new team. It's pretty, out there. But I can't completely rule it out.
Wow, that'd be interesting to see him go somewhere else. And the question is whether or not whether Jerry would let him go. That would be hard. Jerry being the GM he is, who knows?
That's the thing.
Because I don't think Mike McCarthy took over the GM role, right?
No.
Okay, so Jerry's still the GM, so gosh only knows what would happen there. But that would be quite interesting to see that. And they do have a lot of free agents they got to take care of. What do you think, Shontis?
I think for me, it would be, and it's been kind of surfacing around here lately, it would be Tom Brady going to the Buccaneers. And when I saw that, I was, I'm thinking Tampa Bay. I don't really think much. I don't honestly take anything Tampa Bay does serious in the offseason because, they do a lot of things and nothing really comes of it. But when I thought about if they were to sign Tom Brady, and it would obviously put them in win now mode. That's been a franchise that's been trying to build for so long. But getting Tom Brady, pairing him up with Mike Evans, who's had a 1,000-yard season every year he's been in the league, and then along with what's the other guy's name? What's the other receiver that's there? I can't think of his name.
Yeah, Godwin.
Godwin, yeah. And pairing them up with those two guys that had 1,000 yards this year, that could work, and that could make them a playoff potential team. I don't think it would get them in contention for anything. Honestly, I think it will only make them a playoff contender, nothing more than that. But I think that would be the biggest splash I think anybody can make in this offseason.
And I think the head coach is Bruce Arians, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is correct. the man's an offensive. He's got some offensive genius behind him.
Yeah.
So you bring in Tom Brady and let him. I mean, look at Bruce is working with some great quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So
Right.
bring Tom in, let him bring that leadership in, and like you said, Mike.
It would make them a contender. It will always. I think for us though, I think if they were to sign Tom Brady, I would probably. I call it a season. I just go ahead and just prep for 2021.
Well, there was something out there today that said, the starting quarterbacks in the NFC South would be Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, and Tom Brady. I can't. Now, I know Tom. Here's the deal. That is the story everybody's waiting on. Everybody's waiting to see where Tom Brady's going to go and what's going to happen. The best part will be he just started a production company out in L.A. with the guys who did the Avengers. So maybe he just says, hey, and freaks everything out and says, I'm going out west. Although starting that out there, my question is, then is it the Chargers? Who knows? But here's mine. And everybody sitting down. Everybody ready for this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Derrick Henry to the Houston Texans.
And that would make a lot of sense.
And let me just back up. You've got to pay maybe Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Jack Conklin, Logan Ryan. They've just got a boatload to figure out.
Yeah.
And how John Robinson and Mike Vrabel are going to do it, I have no idea. I think I know how they're going to do it. But if they tag Tannehill and they give Derrick a big contract, or they give Ryan a big contract and let Derrick test. And people have said, listen, running backs come and go. I'm not buying that. I'm saying you sign Derrick Henry to whatever you want. But Derrick Henry with the Houston Texans, and you get Deshaun Watson and Derrick Henry.
That's a loaded offense.
That right there, to me, that even jumps a little bit above. And you got DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Fuller. It goes on. All of a sudden, that really – does that almost jump them – let me ask you this. Would that jump them above Kansas City?
As far as talent-wise, yes, because across the board, they would have more talent. Obviously, Sammy Watkins is not going to be in Kansas City this upcoming season. So, talent-wise, yes. I mean, oh, man. I mean, that would be huge. It will finally give Houston that last piece on the offense that they've needed. They obviously have to fix that offensive line, but if you get you a true 1,000-yard rusher to pair with Deshaun Watson, it can make life so much easier because you get to change up everything you get to do now. I mean, there's a lot of games where they just rely on Deshaun Watson to create with a bad offensive line and great receivers, but he's running for his life. If you can then give him a guy that can carry the ball 20 to 25 times a game, that changes the entire complexity of that offense.
Right. And then you got Deshaun running the ball. So, Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, it'd be huge for them to get Henry in there because they've kind of had that influx of running backs with Duke Johnson, Carlos Hyde. And they haven't really had their guys since, really Arian Foster back in the day. And to really get that identity would be huge for them. And, they have, guys like Fuller, Hopkins, and then Watson himself. And also their offensive line is, they're working on it. They signed Laramie Tunsil after that huge trade for him. But their organization is kind of in a state of it's kind of all over the place with Bill O'Brien coaching, GM. I don't think I would put them ahead of the Chiefs just because of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And even if Sammy isn't coming back, I think the speed and talent that they have on offense is just going to be too much for a lot of teams once again this year.
Yeah. So we think about free agency, and of course the big thing that they say that as you enter this upcoming season, you could have more than half the NFL with new starting quarterbacks, maybe. So the quarterback is going to be kind of the thing to watch. But one we don't have to watch is, of course, Kyle Allen, who the Panthers did sign on a one-year deal. And they're going to bring him back for that one-year deal. So as I got to thinking about that, I got to thinking about, okay, maybe the gist is we're going to bring Cam back. We're going to let him play, and we have our backup in place who's proved he's a great backup, but not necessarily your starting quarterback or your franchise quarterback. So thoughts on signing Kyle Allen and what that means for the future of the Carolina Panthers? Shontis.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Well, for me, I was happy with it because for all of the critique we gave Kyle Allen throughout the season, I thought that for 13 games that an undrafted free agent came in and played well. He handled it well. I think that once we as fans started to put more expectations on him than what we should have, like expecting him to carry us to the playoffs, which was kind of out there. I think he played well for what he is. I think he's a great backup. I think he's a very good backup. I think he would have been if he would have went out and tested free agency, I think he would have been a sought after backup
right
for the rest of the league. And I think for us keeping him around, keeping a quarterback that's been here, the guy that I believe is only going to get better if he continues to get more reps. I think that was great for us. And it, again, like you said, it solidified the fact that Cam is more than likely going to be the guy going into the 2020 season, which is great for all of us in our mentals because it cannot put all of the speculation to rest.
Right.
Yeah, so last week we kind of looked at that trade with Trey Turner and Russell Okung as kind of looking at what direction the Panthers are going from here, and I think you can kind of do the same thing with this deal. I know earlier in the episode I said don't rule out the Panthers going for Teddy, but that's just kind of there's a shot, but I don't think it's going to happen. So this is actually pretty huge because it speaks volumes to what they're doing at the position because you guys, last year in the third round, we drafted Will Greer, and so he's still on his rookie deal, so he's probably not going anywhere. He'll probably be on the roster once again. Now we bring back Kyle Allen on I was surprised at how cheap the deal actually was for a quarterback that came in and, won games, albeit he wasn't amazing, but we signed him for 1 year less than $1 million, which, I'm happy with that deal. And so there's two quarterbacks, and teams really only carry three. And I think Cam will end up being on the roster. And so I think that's the three quarterbacks for 2020. I mean, we'll see what changes here, but I think because of that, we can definitely rule out drafting a quarterback in the mid rounds. But we'll just have to see if they try to move Cam and replace him in the first round.
I think the one cool thing about it, too, is signing Kyle Allen, and we've gotten to a point of, are we solidifying? We've got our three quarterbacks in place. I think the fact that Matt Rule went along with us and said, hey, let's keep Kyle on is it's a big move, but it's also a big confidence booster for him because while he played well and he had his ups and downs and really, became our starter, I think for, the head coach to come in and go, hey, we want you around at least one more year. I've got confidence in you. That we're going to need you at some point, and you're the guy who can step up and do it. And let's face it, he may not be the best athlete that's out there, but he's a pretty smart quarterback, and he's a pretty good guy.
Oh, yeah, he can play. Like I said, I just think that I think we put too much. I think fans, and I won't say we, I think we're a pretty smart group, and we understood what he was going to be once he became the starter. But I think fans across the board just kind of started pushing for him to be more than what he was. And I mean,
right.
If you look at him in college, I mean, he didn't perform well in college. I mean, he never solidified himself in college either. And I think for what he did and what he accomplished, he's shown that, okay, he's got some skill. I think if you work with him, continue to see him grow, then you'll start to see more. Now, I will say this. If we hadn't signed him, I was looking at P.J. Walker for the Houston Roughnecks, another Temple guy that was there during the Matt Rule era. And I was thinking maybe, especially because he's a mobile guy, could probably really run a Joe Brady style offense. I was thinking maybe that could have been a guy we could have picked up.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, more than anything, he got a rough shot from a lot of the fans because it started blaze of glory and then it kind of went downhill. And then people were giving him such a hard time. We don't want Kyle Allen. He's merely a backup. Blah blah blah. So for this to happen, like I said, I think it's a pretty big confidence booster and just go, hey, you're going to be on our team for one more year. And like I said, with Cam, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Health-wise, and Matt Rule then has some, like you guys said, that consistent factor. That's a big deal. Along those lines, other side of the ball, Christian Miller, 4th-round draft pick, 2019. Didn't do a whole lot, didn't set the world on fire, played some good games or whatever. Does he find a role and where this defense, and we're young and we're kind of redoing everything, does he kind of find his spot on the team this year and make an impact?
I think, Tyler, I'll let you take this one. I feel like you'll know more about this than anybody else.
I agree.
Yeah, so coming out of the draft, I was a huge fan of Christian Miller. He was he actually got a high 2nd round grade from me. And, we got him in the fourth. I think a lot of that had to do with some of the injuries he had at Alabama. And, he kind of was never like in a starting role, just kind of in and out the whole time, mainly due to injuries. But when he's on the field, you can really see his talent, and he's a flashy type of pass rusher. He's not going to be, run stopping like guy that's going to hold an edge, but he's going to really get after the quarterback and, run around offensive tackles. With his athleticism, kind of like Brian Burns in a way, but just the fourth round version of Brian Burns, I guess. So I think, I think kind of like what Shontis talks about with the receiver position. I think our other defensive end spot isn't talked enough about with Panthers fans and how that's a need. So we saw in his rookie year last year, his game against the Cardinals, where he, put together a couple of sacks, and that was a nice performance. I think if he can really tie that all together and become more consistent, he can at least develop into a, rotational role, because he wasn't even being used very much at all towards the end of the season, which was kind of disappointing to me. But in year two, I hope to see him develop into something more.
Yeah, agreed. He just, you got to get the opportunities, and as the opportunities come, then we figure out more and more. And he just didn't get as many opportunities last year. And that fourth round, what do you expect? I mean, what do you guys expect when you think fourth round? Sometimes they're not even on the roster come day one. So if you're on the roster and you're going for a second year, we've seen a lot of people grow from year one to year two once they find it and get that playing time in. Would you guys agree with that?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I think if he can become a rotational piece, a guy that gives us more consistency. Say if he were to give us, let's say, 7 to 8 sacks this year, that would be huge. Because I can't remember the last time we've had multiple pass rushers on the field. We usually only have like the one guy. Like for the majority of Charles Johnson's career, he was the only pass rusher that we had.
Right.
And for the majority of Julius Peppers' career here at Carolina, he was the only pass rusher we had. We didn't have another guy. If it's Brian Burns and Christian Miller, who are both very young, and Christian Miller is going to be very cheap to keep if he were to stick around and have some success, I think it would be great for us down the line, especially because we led the league. We were second in sacks by the end of the year. So So I believe he can help. He can help play a part in that success continuing all on into the 2020 season.
And he had what 2 sacks last year?
I think 2.
And it was just 2, which hey, it made a difference.
It most definitely does.
And you go that route. So as we get through free agency and all the bargaining and the tags and all that, we get closer and closer, of course, to draft. And you see more and more and more of the mock drafts, and maybe things kind of falling into place. And I think we'll know a lot more after next week, or at least the first 2 weeks of free agency, in terms of what the needs might be. But we kind of came up with 6 names, 6 players, and let's say you pick 2. Out of these, who would be your top 2? And you think Javon Kinlaw, Grant Delpit, you got Jeffrey Okudah. This one's an interesting one. Jordan Love, Isaiah Simmons, and it's is it Tristan Wirfs, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Tristan Wirfs.
So those are your 6.
Okay.
If you had to pick 2 and kind of go, here's where I feel like we're going to get the most, bang for our buck, and here's the people that are going to come in and maybe have an immediate impact. What 2 would you go with? And we could go. Obviously, we pick the same ones if we want to, but Tyler, what do you think, bud? If you had the top.
Yeah. I'll go with Jeffrey Okudah and Isaiah Simmons. I talked about both of them along with Derek Brown in the Money in the Bank episode I did a few weeks ago. I think preferably Simmons is the guy I want at 7 no matter what. So if he makes it there, I think we got to take him, because what he can do on all 3 levels of the defense. He's listed at linebacker in this image that we're looking at here. But, he plays safety, nickel, corner. He can even rush the passer a little bit. So I think, a Clemson kid too, coming into Carolina, that'd be a great fit. And then also with, Jeff Okudah, the Panthers doesn't look like we're going to retain James Bradberry. He's already in talks with some other teams, including the Redskins, and now the Jets are interested in him.
Not legally talking.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah. But yeah. So I think Okudah is probably he's not gonna, it's not gonna take him long to fill in for James Bradbury. And I think just what he can do as a man cover corner is so important because that's such like a valuable skill, just staying man on man with a receiver. So I think bringing him in to pair with Dante Jackson at corner would be huge. But I think both are great options, definitely.
For me, it's crazy because honestly, Tyler picked both of the guys I would love to see. But if I were being realistic, if I would have to go a different route, and I had to say, okay, so I say for example, Okuda's off the board. If we can get Simmons, and I believe you could get Kinlaw. I doubt those would be the two I would go with. I mean, I feel that it would solve all your problems. It would solve the majority of your problems on the defensive side of the ball. And seeing as that we usually always go cheap in the secondary anyway, it would be much of the same that with our franchise's history, going cheap at corner. And there's some guys I feel like you can go sign at corner. I don't feel like corner is a position that you necessarily have to have the greatest of guys to still be successful. I've seen us go years without having elite corners and still make the playoffs and still have a chance, So I think but the one thing you got to have is a front seven. If I can get a defensive tackle that can a defensive tackle that can run stop, possibly affect the passing game, and I can get a linebacker that's sideline to sideline instinctual, and a great athlete can play all over the field, then I feel like I solved the majority of my problems on the defensive side of the ball.
Talk a little bit, if you could, Shontis, because I'm going to go the same route. I think for me, I agree with the corner statement, and I know what Okudah brings to the table. But for me, the Panthers have always been known, at least and when I've watched them and stuff, is that front seven, and they've had a scary front seven. Maybe not as much now. Simmons to me, if he's there. If you want to go offensive line, I don't think Wirfs is going to make it. I don't think he'll be there for 7. I think he'll be gone. But the gist is, I think the sleeper in that first round at 7 could be Kinlaw. And Ashanti, we've had the chance to see him play. What does he bring to the table? I mean, to me, I watched him play, and just the way you could really move him around.
Honestly,
the way he moved around and where they lined him up all over the place as a Gamecock. Tell me a little bit more about what he brings to the table.
I think for many people, because we went 4-8, they don't know the freakish type of athlete he is at that defensive tackle position. He's a guy that, you can move him around in different spots and he can dominate. He's great. I mean, he fought through double teams all throughout most of the regular season. And if you watch, if you need one game to know that he's a top tier player, watch the Georgia game. Rewatch that game and watch him dominate. What Georgia's a great run blocking off of the line. Watch him be in the backfield for a majority of their plays. That game, which is a game we won because of what he was able to do in that ground game, making that ground game non-existent, making Jake Fromm have to be a passer, have to win from the pocket, and it changed the entire game. That's one game that if you want to know what type of player he is, watch that game. He's a guy that's physical, has a great motor, and that's one thing that if you talk about defensive linemen, motor is the key. It's one of the key words people use when they talk about defensive linemen. Is he on go 24/7? Does he take plays off? He doesn't. And for me, I think that would be a steal. I think he's the guy that may, like I said, because of the team he played for not being nearly what we thought they'd be, I think he may slide. And I think for somebody, they'll be able to pick him up. If we were able to draft back and acquire more draft capital, I could see us getting them. And I could possibly see him slipping out of the first round, possibly if teams just forget that.
I don't know if Tyler's seen him. I've seen a couple of the mock drafts where they've had the Panthers trading and getting out of that 7 spot and getting the picks. Could you see him going that route, maybe with something a surprise like that, Tyler?
Yeah, we're looking at this image right here with there's Grant Delpit's actually mocked them, and in that mock draft, that's actually in a scenario where the Panthers would trade back with actually your Titans, who
I've seen that.
I believe, so that would be, I'm okay with it actually. Like I'm thinking like a trade back maybe with the Colts at 13 if they want to come up and get their guy and Jordan Love or Justin Herbert, because that's not too much of a fall. And then you could definitely still have your option of Derek Brown or maybe even Javon Kinlaw at that pick too. So I think especially if we're not gonna address the quarterback situation this year and just keep Cam around, it's always good to build bring in assets for next year in case we want to move up in the drafts for, maybe a Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields next year. So I think trading back is definitely a legitimate option, but I would just hope that they stay in the first round and, are still able to bring somebody in.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. I always hate it on draft night when your team gets right there and they're picking up that high. Next thing you know, Roger Goodell comes out and goes, "We have a trade," and it's just like a shot till it's like, stop, come on, man. And a lot of people, you mentioned it too. Yeah, I mean, I could see the Colts, the Titans, somebody like that drafting, getting up to that 7th to make the trade and going after Herbert or Love or something like that. Tyler, are you surprised there's no Brown in there?
Yeah, I was really surprised actually, just because, as I said, a lot of times, like when you're looking at mock drafts for the Panthers, you're seeing Derek Brown mocked at 7 so often. But actually, recently we had the combine and then pro days, but he actually had a really a kind of a disappointing combine where he posted some not as impressive numbers as you would think. But actually, yesterday they had Auburn's pro day, and he kind of turned it around there, and really he looks a lot better, let's just say. So I wouldn't rule out Derek Brown at all, because he's definitely still very talented and, Rex offensive game plans, definitely.
Hey, Tyler, just one quick question. For you, when you start looking at draft prospects, if it's say like Derek Brown, you said he had kind of a pedestrian day at the NFL Combine. Do you how much thought do you put into combines, or do you just rely on what you've seen on tape?
Yeah, so the whole process is kind of just, for me, like, you got to take everything with a grain of salt and kind of mix it all in together and take everything for what it is. And when it comes down to it, the film is the biggest thing for me. Of course, the combine is good to confirm things or, figure some things out, and it's definitely a valuable experience. But for Derek Brown running a 40-yard dash, I'm not going to be too worried about it, because he might do that one time in his career on an interception or something. So, and then of course, like, I'm probably for the combine, I'm probably more worried about the interviews and how they're going through that, because that's honestly probably more important than the on-field drills. And just everything. You just got to take everything with a grain of salt, and when in doubt, the film probably tells the whole story.
Agreed. And when I think about the combine and you talk about game film, I always tell kids, and even when I coached, and I would tell dads, I'm like, they're fast until you put pads on them, and they get hit that first time, and there's a big difference between running the combine and running the 40 there, with your track gear ready to roll, and not having some linebacker ready to knock your head off or something like that. So you're right. You just got to kind of mesh it all together. I think the interesting part about the combine has become more the interviews and talking to these kids, and because they're kids, I mean, and figuring out exactly, what's up here, and what's here. And a lot of times that's going to overtake all the physical stuff. So we shall see. Kind of as we start to wrap this up a little bit, when we think about, the upcoming season. So there's a little bit of question mark at, the quarterback. There's obviously some questions on the defensive side of the ball. We're shoring up the offensive line a little bit, but kind of the mainstay of what we see coming back, which has got the name of the Cat Pack, would obviously be CMC, DJ, and Curtis. As we think about those three, and obviously CMC would be the probably everybody's answer, but as we head into the season, what of those three, who's going to make the biggest impact on the team? And we can all say the same thing, probably. Go ahead.
Well, it's crazy. I'm gonna go Kurt. I'm gonna go Curtis, because I feel that if he takes that next step, and I thought that a lot of what held him back this year, what it really was his quarterback play. I think with a healthy Cam, and again possibly shifting him over into that Jarius Wright role that he played the last couple of years, I think he opens up a lot more for the offense. I think if he's able, if he's able to have a big year, he'll have a huge impact for us down the line, because he'll give us everything that we haven't had. And I honestly, I think in this franchise's history, as far as like weapons, like we haven't had weapons. As far as like we haven't had two receivers aside from Muhsin Muhammad and Steve Smith those few years. We haven't had a receiving core that's really just been dominant. We haven't had this many weapons on the team at the same time. But I think Curtis Samuels, because just because he would be kind of an unknown guy, because you wouldn't see that one coming, especially with DJ Moore having the near 1,200-yard season, and Christian McCaffrey being what he's been the last couple of years. I just think he would come out of nowhere for a lot of people.
What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, for me, probably, Christian McCaffrey will be the most impactful just because of the position he plays and how many snaps, he's always on the field for. And, yeah, don't get me wrong, he's a great player, but I think, DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, they're in for big years as well. I mean, last year, DJ Moore, kind of because we weren't having the best year with Kyle Allen and everything, the attention around the league wasn't really on us at all. And DJ Moore had a big season, and it kind of went unnoticed by a lot of people, in my opinion. So I'm just looking for another big year from him, and just to show that he, is growing more. And actually, when he was coming out of the draft, I wasn't really a big fan of him, and I was a little bit upset with the pick. And but he's proven me wrong since then, and has really just been a great player, as a route runner, getting open, and then after the catch too. He's basically like another running back, along with Christian McCaffrey. And speaking of a former running back, Curtis Samuel at Ohio State, he also played some running back too. So that's what I the first thing when you say McCaffrey, DJ Moore, and Curtis Samuel, I think about how good they all are after the catch, and that's not something that safeties and corners want to tackle. And but for me, like before this year with DJ Moore's breakout season, I always thought that Curtis Samuel was actually the better receiver. So I don't know if that's still true now, but I know he has the talent, he has got the speed, and I'm looking for another big season out of him. He kind of disappeared here and there, just with you can kind of blame that on our quarterback situation with him being kind of a deep threat, but. I kind of want to look to him, to maybe be more consistent this year and make a bigger impact.
I'm going to basically, agree with you guys completely there. For me, we could say CMC. We know he's going to do what he's going to do. And DJ kind of exploded on the scene, had a pretty solid year. To me, Curtis is that kind of forgotten guy. And defenses may line up this year and not, look to him as much, thinking, okay, we got to take care of the other two. And like you said, the quarterback play, look, Kyle did a good job. But do we get Cam back? And is Cam healthy? Is Cam running? Or whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Teddy, who can get the ball downfield. So I think for me, Curtis is kind of the sleeper guy this year who's going to, I think, open some eyes and kind of step to the forefront and be that. And let me tell you what, if you get that and he gets to that level, that's a scary offense. Especially if Cam's healthy. And that offensive line comes together a little bit. And you, like you said, Tyler, after the run, yards after catch, you're shaking your head, Sean. He said to me, it's a scary offense.
Oh yeah, it can be so. I think it fits perfect for Joe Brady. I think honestly, we didn't talk about Joe Brady being a great hire because Luke retiring right after that. But I think with Joe Brady and Cam, oh my God, if Cam's healthy. I think this offense, there's no limit to what this offense can do because there's really nothing aside from the offensive line being the one piece that can hold us back. There's nothing that this offense doesn't have right now. Honestly, just across the board.
And if you think about Joe Brady, I mean, some people say that LSU offense this year was the best offense in the history of college football.
It has an argument.
I mean, and people argue, listen, Joe Burrow was great. I give him credit. He's a great quarterback. But up until this year, Joe struggled a little bit. So you bring and all of a sudden, you bring in, like you said, Brady as the OC. Let him, bring that type of offense in there, and with that speed, there are not a lot of teams that have that much speed.
No,
especially with CMC coming out of the backfield or lining up in the slot.
I think we're one of the fastest at the skill position aside from Kansas City and Houston. I think Houston and Kansas City probably are the two fastest. I think we're right underneath those two.
Cool. Well, that's it in terms of that part of it. We always close with here's the kicker, and I was trying to think of something, and we're going to go non-football related. And actually, I'm going to say I was too sick to watch the podcast last week, so I don't know if you guys talked about it, but obviously our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the city of Nashville. And what they went through. And Amy Adam Strunk, the owner of the Titans, they gave $1 million to Nashville, which was great. But then I don't know if you guys saw the story, but the Jags, the Colts, and the Texans all gave $100,000. And they each wrote a note saying, this is for the AFC South and what we mean as football brethren. And to me, to see people step up like that. J.J. Watt did great stuff, for Houston, all that stuff. But to continue to see the players step up and management step up, and at the end of the day go, hey, you know what? We're all in this together. That's a pretty cool story, and it's great to see.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It goes to show you that this game is bigger than just the game itself, and that there's real people behind all of these franchises, and that, again, people still care. People still care about people, no matter where they are, no matter what for a competition for 6 months out of the year. These are we're all still trying to look out for each other.
Yep. And it's a great thing. So that is it, I think, for this show, for this episode. Like I said, we love doing this. I think next week, I'm going to put Jack on the spot a little bit. So next week, we are going to probably kind of recap some of the craziness of the tag deadline as we enter free agency. The collective bargaining agreement will be on the table, so we'll know more about playoff games and extra games and all that other stuff. So crazy week coming up. Make sure you check out us on Twitter, at Panther Brawl, Facebook, the Brawl Network, at Brawl Network. Make sure you check all of that out. It's growing. A lot of great information. Tyler, appreciate you, man. Shontis, appreciate you. Guys, we appreciate you. I'm Jeff, and until next time, keep pounding.